The Caucasus Mountains, a rugged region sitting at the heart of the continent, was one of the most critical of these corridors. It was a hinge between east and west, a place where Neanderthals could not avoid meeting one another. DNA studies reveal that the Caucasus acted again and again as a genetic exchange point where populations split, merged, or were replaced entirely. This back-and-forth movement means that Neanderthals were not defined by a single homeland. Their identity was built by movement, shaped by a geography that never stood still. But they weren't the only other humans walking these lost highways. Denny the hybrid. The Neanderthal story becomes even stranger when another shadowy branch of humanity enters the picture, the Denisovans. For years they were completely unknown to science, totally invisible in the fossil record. They were discovered by accident from just a few fragments of bone and teeth found in Siberia's Denisova cave. Yet, from those tiny scraps, scientists extracted DNA that revealed an entire, previously unknown population of archaic humans that had once ranged across all of Asia. Unlike the Neanderthals, who left a long trail of skeletons and tools, the Denisovans are ghosts whose presence is almost entirely written in genes. And those genes prove they were no strangers to the Neanderthals. Deep in the Altai Mountains, Neanderthals and Denisovans lived within reach of each other, sometimes even using the same caves, though perhaps separated by centuries. What many overlooked at first was that their encounters were not rare or fleeting. Genetic evidence proves that they regularly interbred, leaving behind hybrid children who carried the genetic signatures from both sides of this ancient family. In 2018, scientists made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology. From a single bone fragment found in Denisova Cave, they identified the remains of a teenage girl who had lived over 90,000 years ago. When they analyzed her DNA, they found she had a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father. They nicknamed her Denny. She was the first direct, first-generation hybrid of two distinct human groups ever found. This was physical proof that these interactions weren't just theoretical. They were a fundamental part of their world. This genetic exchange was a two-way street. Denisovan genomes ended up with significant chunks of Neanderthal DNA woven into them. Some of these borrowed genes proved incredibly valuable, especially those tied to the immune system. Through these intimate exchanges, survival strategies were passed back and forth, strengthening both populations. This is a picture of prehistory, far more tangled than once imagined. Neanderthals were not solitary wanderers. They were part of a complex web of peoples bound together by migrations, meetings, and mixtures that stretched across continents. Then, a new group of humans arrived from the south, and the world would change forever. The gift and the curse. For hundreds of thousands of years, Neanderthals navigated their braided world of shifting climates and encounters with other archaic humans. Yet, the most consequential meetings of all were with a species that was both familiar and utterly new: us. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, emerged in Africa and began their slow but steady spread across the globe. By around 50,000 years ago, modern humans entered Europe and Asia in numbers great enough to completely transform the balance of power. Neanderthal DNA evidence reveals that during this period, interbreeding became widespread. The proof is in your own body. Every single person alive today with ancestry outside of sub-Saharan Africa carries a small but significant piece of Neanderthal ancestry, usually between 1 and 2%. At first glance, that may seem trivial. But when spread across billions of humans, it represents a massive living legacy. It is the ultimate proof that Neanderthals did not just vanish without a trace. Instead, they became a part of us. This genetic inheritance was a mixed blessing. Some Neanderthal genes improved our resilience, strengthening our immune systems and influencing skin and hair adaptations that helped our ancestors survive in colder climates. However, other inherited traits proved less kind. Certain Neanderthal variants are linked to a greater risk for conditions like diabetes, depression, and even vulnerability to certain viruses. What they passed on was a double-edged sword.